Imagine waking up thousands of years ago. There are no banks, no credit cards, no ATMs, no online shopping, and definitely no notification telling you that your payment has been declined. Yet ancient humans still had a problem that sounds surprisingly modern. They needed resources. They needed food. They needed tools. They needed shelter. And sometimes they wanted something they could not produce themselves. Today, we solve these problems with money. You work, you earn income, you store it in a bank, then you use it to buy what you need. It feels completely normal. But money itself is a relatively recent invention compared with the history of our species. For most of human history, people had to organize their economic lives without modern currencies. And understanding how they did it reveals something important about how money actually works. Because money is not really about pieces of paper. It is about trust, scarcity, exchange, and the ability to store value. Long before modern currencies existed, humans were already dealing with all four. Imagine a small prehistoric community. One person is good at hunting, another knows where to find edible plants, someone else makes better tools, another person is skilled at building shelters. Nobody can do everything alone. That creates a problem. If the hunter wants a new spear, what does the toolmaker want in return? Maybe meat. But what if the toolmaker already has enough meat? Now the hunter has a problem. He has something valuable, but the other person does not necessarily want it. This is one of the biggest weaknesses of simple barter. You need both people to want what the other person has. Economists sometimes call this the problem of the double coincidence of wants. In simple terms, you need to want my thing, and I need to want yours, at the same time. That sounds manageable in a small group, but imagine trying to run an entire city like that. You would constantly have to search for the right person. Someone might have grain, another person might have pottery, someone else might have animals, and you would need to negotiate every exchange individually. Eventually, humans found a much easier solution. Use something that many people agree has value. That something could be many different things depending on the culture. Shells, salt, livestock, metal, grain, or eventually standardized coins. These objects could act as a bridge between different kinds of goods. You did not necessarily need to find someone who wanted your exact product. You could receive something other people were willing to accept. And that changed everything. Because now value could move through a community. Imagine an ancient farmer producing more grain than his family needs. Instead of simply storing all of it, he could exchange some of it for tools. The toolmaker could then exchange what he received for something else. And suddenly, a network of exchange appears. No modern bank is required. No smartphone is required. No financial app is required. Just trust. And this is where the story becomes surprisingly relevant to modern life. Because one of the most important functions of money is not simply buying things, it is allowing you to transfer value through time. Imagine you work today. You receive money. But you do not need to spend everything today. You can save some. Tomorrow, next month, or even years later, that saved value can potentially be used. Ancient humans faced the same basic problem, except their savings often looked very different. A family might store grain. They might preserve meat. They might keep animals. They might protect useful tools. They might accumulate materials that could be traded later. In other words, saving existed long before bank accounts. But there is an important lesson here. Not everything that has value is easy to store. Grain can spoil, meat can rot, animals can die, tools can break, and even valuable objects can become less useful when circumstances change. Modern humans have a similar problem. Except instead of worrying about whether our grain will spoil, we worry about whether our money will lose purchasing power. You can keep money in a bank account. The number may stay the same, but the amount of goods that number can buy can change. This is one of the most important ideas in personal finance. Your money has a number, but your money also has purchasing power. Those are not the same thing. Imagine you have 100 units of currency. If prices rise significantly over time, that same 100 may buy less than it did before. The number did not disappear, but its economic power changed. Ancient humans could see a similar problem when stored resources deteriorated. Modern humans simply experience it through a different mechanism. This is why saving money is important. But simply holding cash forever is not always the complete solution. You also have to think about preserving value. And this leads to another ancient lesson: diversification. Imagine an ancient family depending entirely on one source of food. Maybe they rely on hunting one particular animal. Everything seems fine until the animals migrate, or the weather changes, or another group moves into the area. Suddenly, the family's entire food supply is threatened. A more resilient group might have several sources. They could hunt, gather plants, fish, store food, raise animals, trade with neighbors. Each source provides something different. If one fails, the others may still work. Modern finance has a similar concept. Do not depend completely on one source of wealth. If your entire financial life depends on one job, your job becomes extremely important. If all your savings depend on one investment, that investment becomes extremely important. If your entire plan depends on prices always going up, you are vulnerable when they do not. Diversification is essentially a way of reducing dependence on a single outcome. Ancient humans did not have stock portfolios. They did not talk about asset allocation. But they understood something very basic. Having several ways to survive can be safer than having only one. And there is another difference between ancient and modern humans that changes the financial game completely. Today, we can borrow money. Ancient communities also used forms of credit and lending, especially as organized societies developed. But modern borrowing is incredibly easy. You can borrow money without meeting the person directly. You can buy something immediately and promise to pay later. This creates a strange psychological effect. Your brain sees the reward now, but the cost arrives in the future. And humans are not always very good at emotionally valuing future consequences. Imagine an ancient hunter finding an enormous amount of food. He could consume all of it immediately. But if he did, what happens tomorrow? There is nothing left. So survival often required delayed gratification. Save something now, use it later. Modern humans face the same principle, except our food might be money. You can spend your entire paycheck today, or you can keep some for the future. You can buy something because you want it now, or you can decide that future financial freedom is more valuable. This is one of the most powerful financial habits you can develop. Learning to separate what you want now from what you will value later. And technology has made this both easier and harder. Easier because we can automatically move money into savings. Harder because spending has never been more convenient. Ancient humans had to physically travel somewhere to obtain many goods. Modern humans can buy something in seconds. One tap, one click, one saved card, and the transaction is finished. That convenience can make spending feel almost invisible. You might not even physically see the money leaving your hands. This is why one useful financial habit is to create friction around unnecessary spending. Make saving automatic. Make impulse purchases slightly harder. And give yourself time before buying something expensive. Because sometimes the most important financial decision is not finding a better investment. It is simply avoiding a bad purchase. There is another lesson we can learn from ancient communities. Skills can be more valuable than possessions. Imagine two people in a prehistoric group. One has accumulated a large collection of objects. The other knows how to make tools, track animals, find water, identify plants, and build shelters. If the group suddenly moves, who is carrying more useful wealth? The second person, because knowledge travels with you. Modern humans have something similar. Your ability to earn money is an economic asset. Your skills, your experience, your ability to solve problems, your ability to communicate, your ability to create something valuable for other people. These can increase your future earning potential. That means personal finance is not only about cutting expenses, it is also about increasing your ability to produce value. Imagine someone spends years trying to save every possible dollar, but never improves their skills. Another person spends some money and time learning something that allows them to earn significantly more. The second person may have less money today, but potentially much greater earning power tomorrow. This is why investing in yourself can be one of the most important financial investments. But there is a catch. Ancient humans also lived with uncertainty. A successful hunt was never guaranteed. Weather could change, food could disappear, injuries could happen, and unexpected problems could arrive without warning. Modern humans like to think we escaped this uncertainty. We did not. We simply replaced some ancient risks with modern ones. Job loss, unexpected expenses, economic downturns, broken cars, family emergencies, sudden bills. The environment changed. The basic problem did not. You need a buffer. Ancient families stored food because tomorrow was uncertain. Modern families can build an emergency fund for the same basic reason. You are not saving because you expect disaster every day. You are saving because you know that uncertainty exists. And when something unexpected happens, the person with a financial buffer has more options. This brings us to one of the biggest differences between ancient and modern financial life. Ancient humans had limited ways to move wealth. Modern humans can transfer enormous amounts of value almost instantly. You can receive a salary without seeing physical money. You can invest in companies thousands of kilometers away. You can own part of a business without ever meeting its owners. You can buy products from another continent. You can borrow money from institutions you have never visited. Our financial system is incredibly powerful, but that power comes with responsibility. Because when transactions become invisible, it becomes easier to forget that every purchase represents resources. Money is not magic. Behind every amount of money is someone's time, labor, knowledge, materials, energy, or risk. That is something ancient humans understood very clearly. If you wanted a tool, someone had to make it. If you wanted food, someone had to find it. If you wanted shelter, someone had to build it. Modern society hides much of this process. You see a price on a screen, tap a button, and the product appears at your door. But the underlying economic exchange is still there. Someone created value, someone provided resources, and you exchanged part of your own stored value for it. Real wealth is having resources, skills, savings, and options that help you handle the future. An ancient family with enough food stored for the winter had security. A skilled hunter had economic value. A person with strong relationships had access to cooperation. A community with several sources of food was more resilient. Modern humans have simply built a much more complicated version of the same system. Our stored resources might be money. Our skills might produce income. Our relationships might create opportunities. Our investments might generate future value. And our emergency savings can protect us from unexpected problems. The technology changed, the scale changed, the terminology changed, but the underlying problem remained surprisingly familiar. How do you use what you have today without destroying your ability to live tomorrow? Ancient humans had to answer that question with food, tools, animals, and trade. Modern humans answer it with salaries, savings, investments, and budgets. And perhaps that is why understanding ancient economic behavior can teach us something useful about money today. Because before humans had banks, before they had coins, before they had stock markets, they already had scarcity, they already had uncertainty, they already had limited resources, and they already had to make choices. You cannot have everything, so you have to decide what matters most. That is still the foundation of personal finance. Earn more when you can, spend less than you earn, keep a buffer for uncertainty, avoid depending entirely on one source, invest in skills that increase your future value, and remember that money is not the final goal. It is a tool that allows you to move value from today into tomorrow. Ancient humans did this with food stored for winter. Modern humans do it with money saved for the future. Different objects, different technology, same fundamental idea. The real question is not how much money do I have? It is how much freedom does what I have give me? And that is a question humans have been answering for thousands of years.